Welcome to Random Act of Squirrel. Today, Act 3, Random Acts of Cinema, 24 memories a second. I'm going to start. One of the things that I wanted to do with this was talk about movies. Before I started talking about movies, I thought maybe I'll give you an idea of, I love cinema. I love the idea of going to the big screen. I love the idea of the larger-than-life quality. I love how it can take you into a different world. So I figured today, maybe walk you through why I love film, what it is of all the media. I think that movies are the thing that are the thing for me, and kind of wrap it up into a bow. How when I start going to movies, which sooner or later here I'm going to start doing actual reviews of movies, not just why I like them. Give you kind of how I want to review them, what I want to, how kind of lay down how I think I want to talk about them, and since this is all kind of on the fly or is organized chaos, well, there's a lot of nuts to take care of and a lot of nuts to think about, so it's kind of go as I flow here, but at least get a foundation so that as I start this, people can follow it. When I grew up, my parents didn't have a lot of money. I had 3 brothers, and my parents really didn't care much about media. It wasn't one of their things. They didn't watch a lot of TV. I was one of those houses with my 3 brothers. We always were like, go outside. That's what we did. You have 3 brothers, go play with them. You have G.I. Joes, go play with them. You have cars, you have adventures, go do your thing. So the idea of them actually sitting down and having us watch movies, and I'm a child of the 80s, movies were harder to get to. Unless you had cable, you didn't really get to see them. And since budgets were tight and they're raising kids, and I lived in a smaller town of about 5,000 or so, give or take a little, going to the movies took effort. So we had to go to the nearby town that was about 10 to 15 miles away if you really did want to go to a movie. And if you did go to a movie, you had 3 screens. So it's a very different world than we live in right now. Once I got into college, though, well, I'll go back to go forward here. And then the 80s happened, and this thing called VHS occurred. And then my small little town, it got a video store. And that was the coolest thing ever. Because we didn't have a lot of money, and we had no interest in necessarily buying the movies all the time, but we had this whole access to movies. And it was fascinating. It was amazing. You got to see this whole world that was pretty much unavailable right about when I became aware of the world. And so me and my brothers, I was the oldest of 4 boys, we would go to the movie theater, or we would go to the video store, and we would rent movies. And it was amazing because I got to make choices, I got to pick things, and as long as they were PG and the rest of my brothers could watch, well, then I could get them. So there's this whole huge world I never really got to see until I graduated from high school. One of the cool things is the college I went to, there was a cheap seat theater, which I don't even think they exist anymore, or at least not in my area. All of them either got plowed over or can just shut down, and I have a feeling COVID killed the rest of them. I'm not sure on that, but you would have second-run theaters. So you'd have like the big cool theater with the really nice effects and all that kind of stuff, and they would show the movies, and then they have the cheaper one, which was probably the better one or the first one before that, and then it would take the second run where it would show the movies that were popular, or maybe if the movie didn't do well, it would run through there, and then the people would decide, well, I wasn't willing to pay full price, but I'll pay a matinee or slightly less than matinee to see it. So being a college student on a budget, the cheap seats were the coolest thing ever, because I got to go see all of these movies in the mid 90s, it's mid to 90s and early 2000s when I went to college, because they were cheap. Like movie prices were like $5 or $6. Otherwise, yes, I'm old. I get that. They're like $2, so you could go in, and if the Oscars came through, you could go watch all of the Oscar movies for super cheap on the big screen and see what the conversation was about. And since I was young and impressionable and really wanted to be involved in all this stuff, I just dove in, and you could watch all the movies and feel like you're really wise when really you look back 20, 30 years later, you realize it didn't really matter, but it was a lot of fun anyways. But I got to see a whole bunch of movies. And then I discovered that they had a really awesome video rental place there. So I got to dive into all the movies that I knew existed when I was younger, but I just never saw. And then with my, I guess that's why I'm a squirrel, I would just kind of dig around and find little pockets where I could rent movies. So suddenly I had this whole world I could open up to where I could watch old stuff on my VCR. Yes, VCRs again make me old. And I could just explore all these worlds and how they design stuff and all the things I read about and the things that people talked about in my books. And it was so cool. And then at one point, I had some connections, so I was able to get some free movies, but I just kind of fell in love with how big the screen was and how you can just have a horrible day or whatever your day is, and a movie that does what it's supposed to do could just suck you into that world. And for back when movies were actually like an hour and a half, which again puts me back in the 90s. Nowadays, I don't know, 2 hours is a short movie, which is insane to me. They talk about the death of things. I would like to find all the endangered species lists, and I would like to put film editors on that list, because I don't know where they went in the last 15 to 20 years, but they're not in Hollywood anymore. They're not in the film industry. No one knows how to make a good short movie, 90 minutes, that goes in, goes out, does what it's supposed to. They're about as rare and endangered as the editors who don't know how to make film cuts anymore. But that's a bias to do for me for a lot. But you walk into that movie, no matter what your day is, if it's done right, if it's a mystery, you can just get completely sucked into the detective that's solving the case, exploring this intricate world, or in an action movie where you feel it as you're being chased by the bad guys, or in the comedy where you can just let go and just laugh. And when it does, it's just magic. It's kismet when it's done right. And I say done right because I think when I was in the 90s, I was aiming for excellence. And maybe as I've gotten older, I've gotten either more understanding or more accepting, whatever the term is. My standards are still there, but my expectations are not. I just want the movie to do what it's supposed to do. If I can go into the movie and it's a comedy and I laugh and it's maybe a satirical one and I can catch the edge and I love it, you were satirical, you did your job, I laughed at the things that are poking in the world that need to be poked at, I love you. You did a great job as a movie. If you're an action movie and you drove me along with the ride, I cared about the lead of the story, and I cared about the end when the good guy and the bad guy clash at the end. You did a great job. I'm happy. If it's a drama and you tell your story, I love that. It's amazing. And so my threshold, it's not lazy, but it's simple. Either you do it or you don't. Either it succeeds or it isn't. And that's where I've come to really review movies or feel if it's a good movie or not. And that leads into how I think I'm going to review movies here, because I noticed that my taste is slightly different than other people's. But to be fair, I think everybody's taste is a little bit different. So mine's going to be kind of two reviews, and depending on where you stand in the world, you can use whichever one you want. There's going to be, pull up my board. Here's my handy board with all of its brilliant ideas, which they're not there yet. First idea is going to be my review. And then the second is going to be sort of, I'll think of a better title if I'm writing here, we'll erase and I'll figure it out. But like an objective review we're going to go with. So they're both going to be, because I like it, they're going to be something, at the end of the day, you see a screen like this, you're going to see the title, like here. I'll pause because I want people to see it. I'll put my review. I'll put the objective review, which needs a much better name, and by the time we'll get there, but the placing will be the same. And what that basically is going to come down to is this. There's how I see the movie and how I enjoy it. And then there's kind of what the movie really is. There are a lot of movies I like that are probably not great movies, but I really like them. So they're going to get a really high, they'll get a really high my review. But then I'll be honest about the review, going, average person walking into this is going to rate it here. So other movies I'm going to walk into, and I may have a really low review on it, but I'll come out of it going, this is where I'm at, but with the quality of the standards, all that kind of stuff, it's probably this kind of a movie. It's not my thing. There was a review I read one time, and I think it was one of the classic, it always stuck on my thought, and this is why I'm doing it this way. It always stuck to me. It was one of the reviews from one of the classic movie review guys, and he started off the review by saying, I'm not a big fan of zombie movies, but, and then he went on to proceed to review a zombie movie. Well, this movie was kind of screwed from the start, because the guy watching it really doesn't really like them. He's not going to judge it appropriately. I appreciate that he showed his bias, but at the same time, he's national enough. He's not going to be able to exit out of it. It's probably not going to be a good review. So that's where I think the balance, I'm hoping this balance will come in nice and make it a little more useful. I was doing some math here for 2023, and I think, I don't know how many weeks there's been, but I've probably averaged at least 3 movies a month, 3 to 3.5 movies a month that I've gone to, varying from new releases, smaller indie stuff, Fathom events kind of stuff, so you're talking little one-shot things, and re-releases, all that kind of stuff. So I've made the choice, or had the opportunity, however you want to phrase it, to see everything from classic films all the way to some cute little indie movie that nobody will care about. One of my weekends was seeing 2 epic movies of John Wick Chapter 4, which is like 2 hours and 40 minutes. And then I heard that they're doing a limited release at other theaters for Cecil B. DeMille's 1956 movie, The Ten Commandments. So I think I spent about 5 hours, and I think that was like 3 hours and 40 minutes. So I think I spent about 6 hours in movie theaters that weekend. And it was just, I don't know, it was kind of crazy. You had like modern action movie, and then you have classic epic with 1950s acting. And that kind of really describes my range and my willingness to go. So I think I'm getting close to the foundation of all this. So for everyone who has been watching, if they have certain movies that if you want to find out how to watch it, I can start off with those reviews. Certain things or shows that you would maybe like me to lean into, where you want me to spend a couple minutes talking about it. I'm definitely open for suggestions to kind of get the ball rolling here. And as a final thought, thank you for watching this third act. I really appreciate it. I hope to continue doing this, and I hope to continue to have other people liking, following, and commenting on the bottom of this video. And thank you for your time. Have a great day.